Right. Shalom, everyone. My name is Menachem Leibtag. I'd like to share with you a short thought about the 3 weeks and the 9 days. Um, in general, we know this time period in our calendar are the time that we remember the Beit HaMikdash and its destruction. And one of the key themes in all the fast days and all the times of memory is we don't just remember what happened, we need to remember why it happened. And the question that all the Nevi'im talk about, especially Yirmiyahu and Yeshayahu earlier, and later Yechezkel, is they're coming trying to prevent the temple from being destroyed. And then, unfortunately, the people don't listen to the Nevi'im, but the Nevi'im are trying to explain to them why God is so upset with them. And when you look at the name of the Beit HaMikdash in Chumash, you'll get a better understanding of what the approach that the prophets have, that the Nevi'im have. Because the name of the Beit HaMikdash in Sefer Devarim isn't called a Mikdash, it's called Hamakom Asher Yivchar Hashem L'Shaken Shmo Sham, the place that God's going to set aside to make his name known, his reputation known. And therefore, when a Jew goes to the Beit HaMikdash to visit, he's not coming to feed God, not to bring him offer, just to praise God. First and foremost, he's coming to remember his relationship with God. As the famous Ramban talks about the beautiful parallel between the Mishkan, or later the Mikdash, and Har Sinai. A Jew coming to the Mishkan and later to the Beit HaMikdash, the imagery that he encounters is supposed to remind him of our encounter with God at Har Sinai, and not just the fact that we had a close encounter with God, not this spiritual high of a closeness to God, but more so entering a covenant and a commitment to be a nation serving God. And if Mount Sinai was our commitment, saying Nasev and Ishma, to be a nation in the service of God, and the way we act, and the way we talk, and the way we act not just as individuals, but as a nation, to sanctify God, to make his name known, to sanctify his name by how we act and how we talk, that's the reason why we gather at the Beit HaMikdash, the place that we need our central place, our hub, to remind ourselves as our duty as God's people to sanctify God, to make his name great. Hamakom Asher Yivchar Hashem, the place that God will choose to make his name known. Now, if the people coming to the temple and praying to God and claiming to be God's people, if the behavior when they leave the temple, or sometimes even in the temple, especially when they leave the temple, is not just and not upright, and the people are obnoxious and haughty and lying and stealing, and their day-to-day life is not a sanctification of God, then those people coming to the temple and claiming to be God's people do more harm than good. What we call Chilo Hashem, a desecration of God's name. And all the Nevi'im starts with Yeshayahu. We're going to read the Haftarah of Shabbat Chazon before Tisha B'Av. Yirmiyahu, the same message that we read the first 2 weeks of the 3 weeks. The opening chapters of Yirmiyahu. Both those prophets are warning the people, it's pointless coming to the temple. Remember, Lama Lirov Sif Chechem, what's the purpose of all your offerings and all your prayers if they don't have an impact on your behavior? And therefore, remembering the destruction of the temple, it's not remembering, oh, how bad our enemies were, but they did wrong to us, but rather why God allowed our enemies to destroy the temple because of our bad behavior. God gave us ample warning. We didn't listen to that warning. In fact, instead of listening to the warning and fixing our ways, we got angry with God for not answering our prayers. We're praying to you. You're not helping us defeat our enemies. And the people who start serving other gods instead, then God gets even more angry. But the main thing you're remembering is not just, oh, we had a temple and some enemy came and destroyed it, is that we had the ability, and God gave us the opportunity to be a nation with the ability to sanctify God by how we live our day-to-day lives as individuals and as a nation. And we didn't take advantage of that opportunity and misused it. Instead of being a nation working for God, serving God, we had this understanding that God's working for us. And when the temple, and later even what replaces the temple later on is going to be the shul, when visiting God in the temple is not a reminder of our commitment to be God's people, our need to behave properly as in service of God, but rather this understanding that God's working for us, that's what makes God very angry. And when we remember the temple being destroyed, we have to remember why it was destroyed. If we want it to be rebuilt, we need to remember how we need to behave to be worthy of its being rebuilt. It's like all prayer, when we make an argument with God and try to state our case in front of God, why you should bring a temple back or why you should bring us back to peace, we have to be worthy of God's help. We know God can help us, but remembering the Churban is not just praying, oh God, to make things better again, but remembering how we need to behave to be worthy of God's help to make things better again. But hopefully, these 3 weeks, in this time of the year, be a reminder not just of prayer and closeness to God and mourning some nostalgic event that once we had, but knowing the opportunities that God gives us, but our need to be worthy of those opportunities. And may this be a time of year where we work together, we think about and explore how we can do better as a nation, not just as individuals, but as communities and as a people, to sanctify God and act properly. Everyone should have a meaningful 3 weeks, and hopefully next year we'll be able to celebrate. They should be feast days instead of fast days, as the Navi Zechariah says in Perek Chet, that the 4 fast days one day will become holidays if we do mishpat and tzedakah, and we love shalom ve'emet. Everyone should have a wonderful day.